Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photo talks about gear I use, all things gear related, but mostly real world experiences. So today I want to talk about, this is a Canon EOS RT, which has a pellicle mirror so that when you go to photograph, it doesn't have a mirror that flips up. It actually, the light shoots through the lens and through the mirror without ever flipping up. So what happens is it's partially a reflective mirror and some light goes up to the viewfinder, but most of the light goes into the film. And so when you shoot this camera, the shutter opens, but you don't see a blackout screen. And I picked this up years ago, and then recently I found this Sigma 50 1.4 lens that I've been using for a portrait camera when I go to events, especially if I'm shooting a commercial shoot and I think we could do some black and white portraits of some of the dignitaries. This would be a camera that can do that. This would be a camera that's a good camera that can go into my kit with my digital cameras, and we could do some black and white portraits. And sometimes the clients don't even necessarily know or think about what black and white can do, and then when they see them, they're really quite impressed. And then when we have to gift photos to certain clients, we're actually able to say, we have black and white photographed, we have prints we can make up and we can send to them. And they've been enamored by the idea that there's a black and white portrait of them made on regular 35mm film. So this is a wonderful camera, and if you haven't seen the RT before, they made one back in the SLR world before the EOS cameras came out. It was called the Canon Pelix, and it had a pellicle mirror, and you can see the mirror, but it actually shoots through the mirror and it doesn't flip up. And that 51.4 impresses clients because it's such a big lens. And I have HP5 in there right now, so I can't fire it, but it's these cameras, there was a series of cameras. There was a 650 that was the same camera as this, but it did have a mirror that flipped up. And you lose 2/3 of a stop of light with this. So if you're shooting 400 speed film, you're really shooting 250 speed film. So I usually set it for 200 when I'm using this. And if I'm inside with a studio setup and I'm using flash softboxes of a studio light, then I can just connect that to this, and that doesn't matter at all. I'm usually shooting at f16 when I'm shooting with studio light. But it's one of those cameras that it does use a little bit of light for that pellicle mirror system, but the value you get of being able to see, like you're shooting through a rangefinder where you're actually able to see if did they blink, because if they blink during the blackout, you don't always know. With this, I can watch for a blink. I can see exactly what I'm getting at the moment that I shoot. And these aren't terribly expensive. This one I think came up at maybe a local yard sale, and the lens ended up coming up at a local estate sale. So I said, well, I'll pick up that lens because I'll put it on this camera and I'll use it for this one very specific purpose of making black and white portraits. But you can find, they made other lenses. There's a great 85 1.8 made for this camera. Again, any of the older EOS lenses that are even used nowadays, if you're a Canon shooter who shoots with a Mark III or a 5D Mark IV, those lenses will work on this too. But if you also have lenses from this era, they will work on those cameras. This is a camera that doesn't feel very much like a film camera, but it very much is. And it's a pretty simple, inexpensive way for me to bring a camera into those shoots and have those people who are, they don't really know what I'm doing or why I'm shooting. You know, I pick up a digital camera, I shoot some portraits in a portable portrait studio at the event, and then I shoot some film, and that's like a little add-on, a little extra. They don't know why I switch cameras, and I don't have to explain it to them. If ever they were to ask and notice it, I might say, oh, it's an old film camera. I'm shooting some black and white film in this. But most of the time, that's not even a concern or a thought to them. And that's a really wonderful little camera to have with that fast 51.4, just to do one thing. Certain cameras I have only do one thing well, or I only use them for one thing well. And this is the portrait camera. Canon EOS RT. I'd recommend it. I think I even like the 650. The 650 with the mirror that goes up and doesn't absorb any light. But this one I am especially drawn to because I like having that pellicle mirror. That seems like a real special thing. All right, that's today's photography talk. Canon EOS RT. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon. Thanks to all who do. I'll be back next time. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.